Hi everyone, John Aldridge here. Just a big thank you from Aldo Meets Podcast in conjunction with the Hotel Anfield here. Budweiser, Zyro Paddle, Dortmunder Union, Onyx Real Estate, RW Invest, Kingdom Plumbing, Northwest Fencing, Bell Lamb and Johnson Solicitors. I'd like to thank you very, very much for your backing, your sponsorship, and obviously the charity partners is the Owen McVeigh Foundation and Zoe's Place. Hello everyone, here we are with episode 17 of Aldo Meets, our podcast in conjunction with Hotel Anfield. Peter Schriewersmann, James Pearce and my old mate Steve McManaman has come to join us. You're welcome, pal. Great to see you.
Lovely seeing you, mate.
We know you're doing a lot of stuff with TNT, aren't you? And media work. Are you still doing anything with Liverpool at the Academy?
Yes, I was at the Academy on Friday, so a couple of days ago. I'll go in again this week, a couple of times maybe, depending on where the kids have got. Because the kids train on Wednesday. Tomorrow they train at 2:30. On Wednesday they have an education. On Thursday they have an education day, so you won't be there. So this week I'll probably go in Friday, depending on if any of them are available for there, and they'll have a game. I think they play Manchester United on Saturday, so I'll see them on Friday.
So what age group do you
normally the under 18s and then the 21s, but really the 18s, the 16 to 18s, the lads who've just left school, come in for a job, apprentices, scholars, whatever you call them, and then first team, and some of them have turned pro, but young enough to be in the under 18s, the youth team, before they get moved forward to Barry Lucis's under 21 side.
All right.
So yeah, I was in on Friday.
Cool. Are you impressed by the standard of the kids coming through there? We've seen a few of them obviously break into the senior ranks this season already.
Yes, I mean the conveyor belt of kids is great. And we thought there might have been a knock-on effect after Brexit, but actually it's probably strengthened the homegrown kids a bit more. There's more space for everybody. So absolutely, I think when you see Liverpool perform the team that performs against PSV, who were top of the Dutch league, as we know, and they performed ever so well. Accrington Stanley, even though they should beat teams like that. But certainly in some of the tougher games, of course, we go back to last year and you go back to some of the Wembley performances when a lot of the kids played. I think we should be all very proud of them, shouldn't we? They're all doing really, really well.
Seems to be a real buzz around Rio Ungamoa.
Of course, he scored a nice goal actually against Chelsea the other day. Of course, that was his old team, wasn't it? So I don't know whether he felt he had a point to prove. Funny enough, I saw him on Friday, as I said, and I said to him, don't let yourself get carried away, because the story, because of the what happened with sort of the transfer coming into Liverpool, and there was still a little bit of bad blood there, and his family wanted him to do well. You just have to make sure he didn't get carried away. Playing the way he did and scoring the goal and setting one up really late on in the game, I think he'll be very happy. But there's a lot actually. You can't, as I said, we always have one, don't we? We brought Ben Doak down, and he was the little skillful dribbler, and he's going to be a great player, and he's doing really well at Middlesbrough. But he's only 16, and you can't get carried away from him. He's got really nice traits. He'll work hard. He's in the right place. And let's hope he develops, exactly how everybody wants him to develop.
You're starting to sound like Ronnie Moran.
I know. I don't like
Ronnie Moran. No, he had a good game, and he scored that goal. He scored. Next minute he said, "How are you, big head?" Straight away, he brings you right back. It's right. Because you can't get your spot on. You can't get carried away, especially as a young kid.
He's 16. You don't want to say he's amazing, he's brilliant, he's fantastic. You just want to say, he's cool and he's doing the right things. That's all you can say at the moment, isn't it? Because we've seen it all before. People get injured. Cade Gordon, who he's gone on loan to Pompey. He had a really bad injury. He was out for 14, 15, 16 months. So you're loath to get carried away with the kids, because you also know what can easily happen. So let's hope they just keep progressing the way they are, and they'll and hopefully be in the first team in a couple of... I know we played against Accrington Stanley, but a proper first team regular in the future.
I mean, Liverpool have exceeded all expectations so far this season. What's impressed you most about the job that Arne Slot's done since he's come in?
Well, I think the fact that he's come in and nobody's mentioned Jurgen to a certain extent, and I think that was Jurgen was a force of nature, wasn't he, as a Liverpool manager? Adored by everybody, charismatic to the hilt, and to replace him and not have anybody say anything about the previous manager. I think that's about as much as you can say about him. He conducts himself in front of the press really well. His press conferences are great. Before games, after games, very generous with his time. And, you know, what the team are doing speaks volumes, doesn't it? You know, we've Jota was on the bench the other day. Joe Gomez was back training. You know, touch wood, we haven't got that many injuries now, and that's important for us to do that. So, you know, him and his staff have been incredible. That's, you know, let's hope we're saying this in 4 or 5 months' time. Yeah.
Were you surprised at all they didn't strengthen in the January window?
No, not in January. No.
Do you see that squad as being having enough? Obviously, last season Liverpool ran out of gas, didn't they? And
yeah,
are you confident they can kind of avoid those pitfalls? Maybe this time around they don't have to deal with the emotion of Jurgen going. They don't have. They also have the experience maybe of the title.
I think so. I think the Gravenbergs, the Dominics, the McAllisters have got a year under the belt a little bit with Taro Endo as well, of being a Liverpool player. The younger players, the less experienced players, have got a year older, more games under the belt, understand what it's about. Injury situation's a huge thing, of course.
Yeah.
And, you know, the opposition, they know more about them, don't they? Manchester City have strengthened, of course, in the January transfer window, but you would think that they're so many points off. Arsenal didn't strengthen, really, who were the closest rivals. Forest brought a couple in. Yeah, but you think that the squad should be strong enough now. Certainly, I don't see why you would not doubt them. None of the real big giants of European football did much business in January, if any. So I don't think you'd be necessarily worried about what Liverpool have or haven't done.
I wanted us to obviously strengthen. As an insurance policy, that's the thing. I would have liked, like when I come to Liverpool, Rushy was notably going out to Juventus, and they brought me in the January. Obviously, I didn't get much game time. Got a few games in, and one thing and another, but I got to see what it was all about. The club, Everton fans, which I knew anyway, most.
Yeah.
But then I knew I was like just treading in, ready to go in August.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And then the other players in, and I thought that was really good, just to integrate me at the right time and settle me down, type of thing. And I just thought, we've got 3 players at the moment, which we don't know what's happening. There's so much going on about. You don't want to talk about it. It's got boring. But it does your head in, doesn't it? And they sort of know where they are. And I thought, well, which one they think's going to go? Then only if it's as good or better than what we've got, obviously, to try and get someone somewhere around. But obviously they haven't, and a little bit disappointed in that. But again, I agree with you, Steve, that we have got, well, we should have enough, pardon the disaster, to take it to the end. If we keep on taking every game as it comes and going in the same manner, and take what happened last year as a learning curve. Because we all felt it deep because we were in a good situation.
Very good situation.
So we're going to go, even though we know Man City is a different beast at the moment. And I sort of think, what you're scared of. Arsenal were good at the weekend. As bad as City was, they were good. But I'm more worried about ourselves.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
That's what I think they're where we are.
How concerned are you, though, Steve, about the likelihood of all 3 of them leaving at the same time?
I'm not.
I.e., you don't think they are all leaving?
Yes. Correct, yes. Yeah, I don't think they'll all leave, no.
Which are you going with the general consensus of people sort of hoping, feeling that maybe Salah, Van Dijk stay, Trent leaves? Or what would be your prediction if there was any?
I don't know. The fact that we've gotten to the beginning of February, as we speak at the moment, I'm hoping they all stay. I think, there's talk about, but there always will be talk about Mo getting... and Saudi Arabia or Al Hilal having the money to buy now Neymar's got, and they probably have got the money. But I don't see. I always feel like Mo wants to beat records, be classed as one of the best around, and that will all go when you go to Saudi Arabia. Unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast and the nature of the league. So I think he wants to play at the highest level, and the highest level is playing for the best team in England, arguably the best team in Europe at this moment in time, and that's Liverpool. So I don't see why that will change. I think the club will do all they can to match his demands, but he probably wants more than what the club want to offer, and it's about finding that middle ground and wanting to stay. But I feel as if he wants to break every record imaginable, or the records that he can. He won't catch Rushy, but he could certainly get to second. He could certainly go above Wayne Rooney and Harry Kane in the Premier League, and arguably chase down Alan Shearer's record, but that might be out of reach. And I think that's what he wants to achieve. And if he does that and Liverpool are successful, he'll be Player of the Year this year. And if he does anything in Europe, he could be Ballon d'Or winner. And I think that's what he wants to what he wants to chase, rather than go to Saudi Arabia. He's an incredibly wealthy man anyway. So I think he'd like to break records rather than go to Saudi Arabia. He's too good for Saudi Arabia at this moment.
I mean, and let's face it, his shape is so phenomenal that his career, a bit like maybe Cristiano Ronaldo, will not finish at the usual sort of age. He can keep going. I mean, I believe it's Ronaldo's 40th birthday tomorrow or the day after. And yes, it's Saudi Arabia, but I think he can still do that. Can't he? Once he might not be good enough for us anymore.
Mo could play there at the age of 38, he could still go there. Probably play there till he's 45.
He could go there in 3 years if he wanted to finish his career there, if that makes sense. I'm not diminishing Cristiano. Cristiano's trying to chase 1,000 goals now, isn't he? And he scored another couple the other night. Yes. So all credit to him, but he wouldn't be doing those numbers if he was still in the Premier League. So I think most certainly can do that for another number of years.
And Steve, something that I'm sure other people will have asked you before, so I apologize for asking it again, but it interests the viewers, it interests us, is that there's potentially a parallel between you and Trent, as in, you're a local guy, and then you get to a point where you are being offered to join a team that is simply one of the best, if not when you count the big ones with the big years, the best team in the world over the years. And that's, I mean, how difficult was it for you back then to turn your back on your boyhood club? And do you think there's a parallel there to Trent to a degree?
There's certain parallels. It's different now. He's won every trophy manageable with Liverpool. When I joined Madrid, because of the format of the league, the way it was situated, I hadn't played in the Champions League. It wasn't the first 4 places, the first 5 places, possibly the first 6 places next year. It wasn't that. Everybody's played in the Champions League now if you play for one of the top clubs, because you have that opportunity to do that. I didn't. So it was the champions then, and possibly the team that finished second later on when I was at Liverpool. And we finished third. So I hadn't played in the Champions League, which is I wanted to play against the best. That is different now. But I think there is parallels in the fact that there was a number of changes at Liverpool that happened, which allowed the players to get down to their final years. Liverpool was slow to come to me for a renewal of my contract, even though they'd promised me it for months and months and months. And then in the summer, Roy Evans, of course, Gerard Houllier came in as joint manager, which Roy Evans didn't know, and I thought Liverpool treated him terribly, actually, at the time. So that put a spanner in the works, because I was speaking to Roy about new contracts, and he said, I have no idea what's happening when Gerard Houllier came in. So there was straight away then, that was happening. There was a vacuum then in what happened within the club, and everything went slow. To a certain extent, I think that's happened with Trent and the 2 boys. Jurgen becoming overly powerful, the sporting directors leaving, Mike Gordon stepping back because FSG was selling or not selling the club. Then George Smadka coming in for 6 months. So it was a bit of an impasse, which has allowed us to get to this point of the 3 players. So I think that was parallels with me. I mean, I was 27. I think Trent will be 26 if he leaves now. I wasn't married. I don't think he is. I haven't got children. I don't think he has. I didn't have children at the time. So there's lots of different parallels, but some other ones as well.
And Real Madrid is Real Madrid.
And Real Madrid is. I mean, it's a different to what it was at the time. But yes, they just won the Champions League in '98, so they were still on the tip of everybody's tongue. But they're a bigger, more professional, well-run machine now than they were when I joined, definitely. And they've got the new stadium, and they've got the best players in the world, and they've got, Jude Bellingham, who's very close to Trent, to tell him everything what's going on. Yeah. But yeah, there are similar parallels, yes.
But I assume you would forgive him if he did it. I mean, we all hope he stays, but I mean, you've been there, done it. I guess.
Absolutely. All players are entitled to move apart from the Scousers, aren't they? Unfortunately, who play for the club. So, Virgil's played in 3 different countries, if you include Scotland. Mo's played in a number of different countries, if you include Scotland. And, everybody's got the problem with Trent, really, if he wants to leave.
That's a biggie.
So, as I said, I don't know what he wants to do, but I certainly wouldn't begrudge him if he wants to leave. I don't know what happens in his personal life and with his family members or things like that. So if he feels as if he wants to experience a new lifestyle, if he wants to learn a new language and experience a different culture, there's 2 lads here who played in Spain. I've got no qualms at all. It'll be a huge miss for Liverpool Football Club, but if he wants to do it, I completely respect him. I'll be very proud of him because he's a local lad and he's done incredibly well, which is what I love more than anything. We've got a city of 400,000, 450,000 people, and you've had players like him and me and Robbie and Wayne Rooney and Stephen and Carrot, and if you've got another one like Trent, I think it's outstanding for the Scousers who come through the ranks.
This is quite weird, and just saying, I might be right in saying, I think there's 3 Scousers that have played for Liverpool and played in Spain. I think there's only 3. Do you know what the other one is, don't you? Little bit of a quiz. We've got a quiz.
Sammy,
later.
Of course.
Sammy Lee, yeah. He played for Osasuna, yeah. So I'm not sure. And we all left Liverpool to go there. Obviously, different reasons. Steve said mine was different. I was shown the door in many, many ways. And then Sammy, similar type of thing. But I have to say, the experience of going to Spain, I wanted to stay, obviously, at the time, was unbelievable. It's brilliant. It's a different league than to what the first division was, the old first division. Different in many, many ways. But the experience was unbelievable. Fantastic. How professional they were compared to, I know that's all changed now, but I loved it. Loved Real Social, loved the Basque people. You went to Madrid, had a great time. Sammy loved the Basque people down in Osasuna. But look, it is what it is. And Trent decides that, then there you go. The club had, in my opinion, the opportunity to do a deal a couple of years ago, which we haven't done. That was, it might be different mentality, the way things happen in America, sports-wise. I don't know. I'm a bit of a dinosaur, Steve, you know what I mean? But I just wonder why Trent wasn't done, like we always used to do when the contract's 2 years to go to renew it all. But it is what it is, and we'll have to see what happens. But anyway, compared to good going with that, how did it start for you? Obviously, you from the other side of the fence, where you're living in Kirkdale.
Yes, Kirkdale.
You're blue growing up. Where did it all start? Now, when did you realise? At what age did you think that you football can become a reality for you?
Oh, I was very good early on, but I was tiny. I was very small. I'm tall now, but I was very small and very skinny. Virtually until I was about 15. Until I reached puberty late, really, until I grew into my body. So it was always a bit of a I was always a very good footballer, dribbler, but it was always about will he grow, because I could get pushed off the ball very easily. And, under 11s, I represented the Liverpool schoolboys, as in the city schoolboys, under 14s. I did, and I represented the under 15s. I was a year lower. So people knew I was a good footballer.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But
that's a big difference in them days, what to play for a year up. In them days, it was massive. Now it's different.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but it was just whether I was going to be strong enough. It was as simple as that. But people were willing to take. Back then it was the if you remember, it was the old YTS scheme, the government scheme brought in. So you were getting paid. Well, I think my first wage was £27.35 or whatever it was. So it wasn't much of a chance. If they didn't like you, you were out the door. If it didn't grow. So
that was £5. That's all I am.
No. So those 2 years were a no-brainer. Really. So everybody. I could have went to a number of teams really, but I was a bit of a homeboy at home bird. I didn't want to leave the family house. I was too ensconced with my mother and father. So it was either Everton or Liverpool. And I went to see Everton because I would have sign for them, probably, because I was a big Everton fan.
Yeah.
But when I met Liverpool, they were just infinitely better at attracting the kids. You know, I met Kenny Dalglish, of course. They wheeled Kenny out to sort of, you know, charm me or charm my father. And it worked. You know, people, years later, Alex Ferguson got a load of credit for going to the people's houses and saying hello to the mum and dad. Kenny was doing that 15 years prior. And Jim Aspinall, the local scout, was a lovely fella. He found Robbie as well. It just seemed to work, and they were much better at that time of making you feel as if Liverpool were the club
that's a big shout, you know. I mean, that's a big shout, because when you're growing up, obviously, like, how's Liverpool nuts, and you think you just are fixated, you know. But like for your dad and your mum to see that, that's quite open-minded, really good, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Also, you remember. 84 Everton won the FA Cup. I was 12 then. So 85, 86, they were winning the
really
leagues. You know, really the 80s, Liverpool and Everton were at Wembley every single year.
That's right,
you know, and it was a hard place to live in Liverpool, but the football teams, you know, dominated. So it was more difficult, because it wasn't a case of Liverpool are amazing and Everton are awful. You know, Everton and Liverpool were neck and neck. You know, 86 FA Cup final, 89 FA Cup final. So they were always playing against each other. 85, against Rapid Vienna. So they were the times when I was, you know, a huge supporter with Peter Reid and Bracewell and Kevin Sheedy and Trevor Stevens and all that stuff. So it was a difficult choice. But once I saw Everton's, you know, at the under-15 level, the youth development officers, and then Liverpool's, that's when it was chalk and cheese. Liverpool were infinitely further ahead than Everton, and they had plans for this, and they said all the right words. And my dad just said, and after meeting Kenny and speaking to him, my dad just said to me, "Oh, you have to sign for Liverpool, lads. It's as simple as that." And I said, "Yeah." And then it proceeded to do the same with Karen, Robbie, and everybody else then behind me.
But would you, if your dad wouldn't have said that, what would you have done?
Oh, and Liverpool were the better side.
Would you have gone even against your dad?
No.
Yeah,
no.
That's
he was the one who spoke, you know, the words of wisdom to me ever since I was young. So I trusted him implicitly. So it was I was feeling exactly the same as him, and I always felt the same as him. We still have the same sort of connection even now.
Really?
So when he said this was the case, I just went, yeah, straight away, no problem, yeah.
That's class, then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. December 1990, you made your debut. Kenny brings you on against Sheffield United at Anfield. I think you came on for Peter Beardsley, late on. What are your memories of that day? Were there nerves?
Got any. To be honest, I trained with the first team lots and lots and lots, and I travelled with them for months and months before, but I hadn't played. You know, I don't know whether it was 2 subs then, but I'd always be 14th man, 15th man, travelling with them. If somebody got sick, you may have got an opportunity, but I'd travel with them and never get changed, you know, never get into a kit. It was always I'd sit on so I'd always travelled with them, train with them. And then it'd always be a case of you sit on the bus with the first team coming back from an away game, for instance, and Ronnie Moran would say, like, Mackie, you're with the reserves. Because if you didn't play for the first team, you play for the reserves, which was an incredibly competitive league in itself. Playing against, you know, playing at the stadiums and playing against, you know, real superstar players who were just coming back from injury, etc. It's not like the under-21s now to a certain extent. And then it was a case of, oh, you're in the squad, which it was, and then it was like, oh, get changed now. You didn't, you know, and then I got my opportunity because it was I think we were leading at the time, and it was fairly easy. So it was great. But I can't really remember much of. I mean, I must have been nervous as hell, really, but I can't really remember anything about it. I knew we won the game.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. So you were helmet the driver's assistant with the kit man.
But that's what it was.
You had to get
that's what it was.
With the driver. The driver used to go on helmet. Graham was a great fella. Used to get out so Steve had to go.
But that'd be me. Because I was an apprentice, and then I, you know, just became a pro. So it was. I'd be still doing, you know what Ronnie Moran was like at the time. You do this, carry out.
And then at the end of the game, you were sorting the boots out.
Just doing all things like that, cleaning all the boots, helping out,
That's brilliant, yeah.
But I can't remember much about the occasion itself, to be honest.
Yeah. And of course, within a couple of months of you breaking onto the scene, Kenny takes a step back.
Yes.
And you know, shocks everyone by resigning. How did things change when Graham Souness came in? Was it a big change in terms of styles and?
No, I don't think so. Graham came in. Ronnie and Roy were still there. he brought in Phil Borsma with him. I don't think there was a big change of styles, apart from like moving to, I don't know when we moved during, Graham wasn't in charge for that long, so I don't know when during his tenure that we moved from Anfield down to Melwood straight away, but that was certainly a plus point. We had to do that. He did improve the food, if I remember it correctly.
Yeah.
I think is the main thing, Subi will probably mention this more than I will, because I was only 18, 19 years of age. So I was very much on the periphery. The first team players were the powerhouses within the team. They controlled things. I think Graham fell out with a lot of them because of, attitudes. I don't know. They'll be able to, the likes of Rushy and Ronnie Wheel and the Steve McMahons will be able to tell you more about that than me. Steve Staunton's who left. A lot of players had played for the club for 10 years and followed a certain way of preparing for games. I don't know whether Suey wanted them to change. I'm not entirely sure, but he certainly fell out with a lot, and that made a lot of people leave.
Yeah.
So it weakened the side, and then a lot of the younger players had to step up to the breach, and probably we weren't experienced enough. You can be able to carry one young player, two young players at a stretch, but you can't carry 3 and 4 and 5. That's when the results will start to suffer, and I think that's what happened.
But to be fair to yourself, Steve, in 91, 92, you started to be an established part of the squad, played 51 times, scored 11 goals, man of the match in the FA Cup final, was it?
Yeah.
So clearly you seized that opportunity that you were given during that period.
That's all you can do when you get the opportunity. That's what you have to do, Peter, isn't it? We've seen everybody play 1 game, 2 games, 5 games for Liverpool and class themselves a Liverpool player. You're not a Liverpool player until you play 50 games. You're a proper first team player. So when you get the opportunity, you just have to grasp it and keep on moving forward. That's not hard. You just have to.
And you were still so young. Man of the match performance in the final. What were your memories of that? Your dad must have been extremely proud.
Yes, he was. My mum and father were very proud, because the first time I went to Wembley was 84 when Everton beat Watford, and I remember going with my father and all his mates on a bus to go down. It was one of the most magical days you've ever had, because you're at Wembley. When you were a northerner, you very rarely, you struggle to get to Wembley because of the cost implications and things like that. And actually, there was only a certain number. It's not like now where you can go down to Wembley any day, any day of the week and go in. If you were at Wembley, it meant the game was something special. You'd reached the final, and it was hard to do it. So to go down and do it and go with my father was brilliant. Everton won the game, of course, which was fantastic. So then to represent Liverpool 6 years later, and walk up the steps and get the trophy yourself. I got injured in the semi-final. I dislocated my knee again, and I didn't think I'd make the final. I remember watching the replay, because we drew at Highbury, I think, and then went to Villa Park and won on penalties, if I'm not mistaken. And I watched it in a pub just down the road from here on County Road in the Royal Oak, it was called. My mates, I watched it, and we won on penalties, and I thought, I don't know whether I'll be fit enough. And actually, I probably wouldn't have played. I think I played a couple of days prior in a sort of reserve game, and Barnsley got injured for the final and missed it, and then they put me in. But any other day, I probably wouldn't have, because I'd had 6 weeks without a game, I think. So I probably wouldn't have played in the final. So there was a number of things. I got back quick because it was a dislocation of my knee. My knee had popped out and gone back in again. So it wasn't like a muscular injury where I could play with it if need be. Barnsley got injured, and it was a culmination of a number of things that, I was back in the squad, and we should have beaten Sunderland. They were in a league lower than us. We did. And I had a decent enough game. Yeah.
And at that stage, you still watched Liverpool games on County Road when you couldn't play.
Yeah. It's just down by the Royal Oak. Yeah, it's just down by from Everton's grounds. I used to live there, you see. Yeah. I lived in Kirkdale and Orwell Road, which is 5 minutes from here. Yeah. And then I moved to just off County Road, off Stewart Road in Walton. So I was still living here when I was, in a little terraced house there with my mum and dad when I was 21 and 22 and 23. So I was always around. So I used to drink on County Road here. So it was, it wasn't a shock to see me having a drink with my mates, because all my friends were from this area, so it was just the way we were.
We talk a lot about how that has changed in a weird way.
But we still knew, like, the drinking culture was there then, and you're a professional in your own right. You knew when to drink and when not to stop. You knew, like, a couple of days before the game, you never had to drink. Saturday, Sunday was different.
You never had a drink a couple of
Saturday,
days.
Sunday was
you never really got bothered though when you were out drinking?
No.
Right? Exactly, and I think that is different now. You know, you can't. Mo Salah couldn't go out in town, could he? Virgil couldn't go out in town. That has changed a lot now, where we could go out and could go out in our local area or into town and not get bothered. You know, not as much as they do.
I think maybe it might have been different for lads coming into Liverpool from other areas, but I think when we're used to Scousers, we know. Because we've been brought up in the environment, we know how to deal with certain situations, if that makes sense. Yeah. So you just went out and enjoyed yourself. And people, fine, look, it's a little bit slightly different now, but like the Everton's Liverpool mix, crazy. Just have a laugh and a crack and a few bevies, you know. Maybe sometimes a few more than a few bevies. Anyway, that's part one of Aldo Meets with Peter, James, and my old mate Steve McManaman. So we'll be back for part two in a minute.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me tell you the story of a poor boy. He was set far away from his home to fight for his king and his country, and also the old folks back home. So they put him in a Highland division.
Welcome to second part of Aldo Meets with Steve McManaman and our friends here. Evo took over, didn't he, Steve, from Graham in '94, and am I right in saying he went with three at the back with wing backs and moved you into first of all, he moved you into that free role, didn't he? Which was ideal for you. You know, when you're playing out and wide, you know, you do get limited access at times. You got to wait for it to come down. But when you're in that pivot road, people like Barnes in particular look to free you up and get you in there. And it suited you down to the ground.
Yeah, it did. I don't know why he changed it or when he changed it. Maybe we had problems defensively and he went to three defenders at the back. I'm not entirely sure, but yes, I played with Barnes. He played him. I know what Barnes was like as a midfielder. After his injury, he came central into midfield. Hardly lost the ball. You know, Jamie Redknapp was the same. Mickey Thomas was the same whenever we played. And we just seemed to be, that was the role I took up. And we seemed to be certainly entertaining when we played. And I just think it was important to try and win a trophy, mate. You know what it's like. It doesn't matter anything. When you play for Liverpool, you have to win something, don't you? Because everybody before you, the teams before you, won trophies, and that's all that anybody associates you with. So, you know, finishing second or third, playing great football and not winning is drives you mad, really. So,
Shankly said it's first and then nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
In them days, you're like, finish second now and third. Look, you're taking all that time to get into Europe. But I was a fan watching us every season just go bang, bang, just winning everything. Yeah. You know, the Shanks and Paisley and, you know, and Joe Fagan and Kenny. It was just absolutely ridiculous, you know, that. But when I watched you, Steve, from afar, and you went in that role, because when you get the ball wide, you're doing damage, you're doing lots of damage, and it's a completely different role. You know, you're looking to feed, you know, Robbie or Stanko at the time, or whatever. But then all of a sudden, you become a goal scorer. Yeah, in many ways, as well as a creator. Your job, and a lot of my memories watching you play is getting on that ball and just going. Just going past people like they're not there, like Barnes, he was on the left wing and then some incredible goals.
So I was allowed to go wherever I felt I could.
He give you the lead, you just like, get it and do what you want.
Because Jamie or Tomo or Barnes, they'd sort of cover for me. I mean, I was always a good runner, and I'd always try and get back wherever I was on the pitch. It wasn't as if I was lazy in that respect, but I knew that I had Barnesy and I had Jamie and I had Mickey Thomas, so I could go where I needed to go without, you know, and they would. And our fullbacks might have been Stig, or might have been Rob Jones, or might have been Jason McAteer, or Dominic Matteo for it. And they were defensively minded. Jason probably was more of a midfielder. than the other three I've just mentioned there. But they were defensive players as well, could get forward and play. So I always knew there was enough solidity behind me to allow me to go forward. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, I really enjoyed playing for Evo. I thought he was an unlucky manager at times. We should have done a lot better. We should have won more trophies. But I was glad we won. I was thrilled to bits to win in '95, and I was thrilled to bits for Evo to win it as a manager.
You scored both goals that day as well. Another Man of the Match award.
Yeah.
That must have been right up there in terms of it.
I mean, really nice, mate. I think Bolton were in the division below us. We should have won the game. We did, and it was not relief. Of course, we were very happy to win the game, and I think I got a special trophy off Stanley Matthews, which is lovely. The player he was.
Oh, yeah.
The main thing was just to win. That's all it is. You get to Wembley, you need to bloody win. It's pointless. I went a year later and went to Wembley and lost, and you're devastated. So the main thing was just to get over the line and bring a trophy home. Yeah,
you mentioned obviously going back there the following year. It was a terrible game, wasn't it?
Awful
game
against
United.
I mean, don't mention them friggin' shoots, whatever you friggin' do.
We were very good against them that year. In the two league games we played, we were very good. And it was almost as if United were not scared, it's the wrong word, but knew that we could beat them. And the game turned into an awful affair, quite turgid, really. Cancelling each other out. There wasn't a lot for the two teams. The way we played, entertaining, football and attack-minded football. It wasn't. The game wasn't pretty at all, and it was decided in a couple of minutes from the end of the game. Really, like it was going to, with a series of mistakes probably on our part that we allowed them to score. Yeah,
obviously around that time the media came up with it was the Spice Boys. Time because that team didn't go on and win more. The accusation was that players were too interested in other things and
that's
focus. Was that just an excuse because you just?
Yeah, of course.
It was also.
It's if you don't win nowadays, you don't get classed as it, do you? But everybody's doing adverts and everybody's in newspapers and magazines and all that now. I've never seen anybody do more work outside of football than they do now because there's so much more opportunity, and only one team wins the league. It's just that nowadays, getting into second or third, people are celebrating that because you get this financial reward of the Champions League, or even fifth or sixth because you're in the Europa League or whatever you want to label the new third trophy as the conference. Whereas if you finished third when I played, it was nothing. It was simple. So you have to remember that. It was the champions first, and that was it. And then it was the champions and the team that finished second for a long time. It didn't become 4 or 5. Until I'd retired, really. So I think that's what you have to remember. I've seen teams finish third or fourth at the end of the league and celebrate on the pitch as if they've won something. Whereas, that was unheard of when I played, and rightly so.
Yeah.
Finishing fourth. Yeah. People say, I'd rather finish fourth than win a trophy, which is bananas. Yeah. But I understand it now because of the financial impact it has on the team.
Yeah,
but as far as I was concerned, you played football to win trophies. It was as simple.
I think
as
that was Liverpool mentality, Steve, wasn't it?
Definitely.
Because of what we'd seen before us.
Yeah, I always felt
you had to add to the history of the club. Yeah. That was all I knew.
That's right, yeah.
There was a picture there on the wall of him lifting a trophy and his team lifting a trophy. As the next generation, that's what we have to do, and we have to add to it and add to it and add to it, and then the teams now have to do exactly the same because it's Liverpool. It's not, with all respect, Doncaster or Barnsley. It's Liverpool.
Yeah,
it's the history of the club. It's a huge history. It's got an aura about it, and you have to play the right style of football, and you have to do the right things on the football pitch, and you have to win the trophies, and that's what it is now. That's why the pressure's on you, and if you're in third place, it's not good enough.
Yeah, and that summer, obviously, you were part of the Euro '96.
Yeah,
37 caps for England. Being part of that tournament and that run to the semis on home turf, was that the highlight for you in terms of your international career?
Yeah, probably, because again, you're associated by tournaments, aren't you? And that was probably, we got to the quarterfinals in '98, and I played a bit part there, but didn't play a lot. 2000, I got injured in the first game against Portugal and had to come off, and then we got knocked out early. So you're associated with what you do in tournament football and where you finish. International football is very easy, isn't it? Where do you finish? You finished in the quarterfinals. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. So, yeah, we finished in the semi-finals there. But again, we lost in the semi-finals. We were probably the better team in the semi-final, which is frustrating. But in all honesty, we were probably the second best team in the quarter-final, and we got through against Spain. Yeah, so it goes like that. Tournament football does. So, yeah, it was probably the best. But when you don't win anything, or when you're not as successful as you want to be, it's probably a little bit more difficult to take.
Yeah.
Just remind me, who won the Euros '96 again?
Oh, I don't need to talk about that, do we?
No.
I mean, that was the one with the silver goal and the
golden goal. Oliver Bierhoff and Stefan Kunz.
Yeah, but it was wasn't it the silver goal? He just scored, and that was the end of the game, wasn't it?
That was the end of the game. Yeah.
Surreal tournament.
I think it was Bierhoff, right?
Bierhoff scored.
Over the line. Kunz, it would have gone in, but Bierhoff did what a striker does and pinched it over.
But you score the goal, and it's like you run off, and that's the end. It's like there's no comeback. It
was against Czech
madness when you think Czech Republic. Yeah, it was. It was the Czech Republic. Paddy and Karol Poborski and stuff. Yeah.
That was a special tournament. Very odd, the golden goal rule. Quite happy that it was scrapped because the last minute.
It got scrapped, didn't it?
Yeah, it should. Yeah. Because you love the last minute, play to the end, see what happens. Yeah. But there you go. Actually, we will have Stefan Kunz on a podcast with us.
Very good.
Very nice.
We're inviting him to Liverpool to watch. He's sporting director of Hamburg.
Yes.
One of many people trying to get that club back to the first division, which has been overdue.
I've got a shirt, and we swapped shirts. And, I've told the story before, so shop shirts. After I was so, and anyway, we beat West Germany away before the World Cup in a friendly, and I come off. I was disappointed that Jack didn't put me on, and this player comes over and says, "Want to swap shirt?" Well, yeah, go out there, mate. There you go. Whatever. So I'm going to the dressing room, and the lads rolls. I said, "Well done, lads. I've got this shirt. It's got cunts." So I said to Jack, "What do you want to know?" And that's what I think of you. Everyone laughed the bollocks off. What a good play, by the way.
We will have to ask him if he is aware why he's so popular in England. It's got a lot to do with football.
Super player.
Yeah, fair enough. Summer '98, Julio came in, joint manager with Evans. With
Evo, yeah.
What was it clear to you early days that it sort of wasn't going to work, or
it was clear for me from the moment it was announced that it wasn't going to work, because Roy didn't know what was happening, which was strange, seeing that he was the manager. We didn't have a disastrous year. I knew that, and my understanding, I mean, we're talking 20 years later, is that we were looking for a first team coach with new ideas to freshen up the coaching situation, and then he came in as joint manager. So as soon as someone comes in joint manager and the other joint managers know anything about it, the writing's on the wall.
Yeah, you knew.
The writing was on the wall straight away. And when we won a game, it was because of Gerard's new ideas, and when we lost the game, it was because of Evo. And I just thought it was awful. I mean, that didn't really affect my thinking personally what I was going to do. I just thought it was, I adored Evo, and he'd done a lot for my career, him and Ronnie Moran and people like that, and Doug Livermore and stuff, who was around at that time. And I didn't associate my club with dealing with people like that, because Evo had been at the club longer than all of us put together.
He deserves that respect.
And yes, and I thought it was awful. But
Gerard to be your last year of your contract.
But Gerard came in, and he was fine. He was great, Gerard. I had a really good relationship with him, to be very honest. And he just said to me early on, listen, I'm a foreign coach operating in a foreign team. He said, if you want to leave, he said, I appreciate it. I've got no problem at all. I respect it. He said, just let me know as soon as possible so I can find a replacement. And I said, okay. I said, that's fine. I hadn't made up my mind then what I was going to do. But when they got rid of Evo, the way they got rid of Evo, I made up my mind then. I said, right, I'm leaving. And I told Gerard early on, and he kept it quiet in with all credit to him. But I told him as early as possible, so he could find a player. And he bought Vladdy Mismita. So he knew months and months in advance, really. But like Jürgen, funny enough, he, by all accounts, he told him in November. So he kept it quiet, and we just carried on the season.
But finally, and I don't want to go over old ground, but was like your desire to test yourself abroad and at a team like Real Madrid the bigger reason for it, other than the way that Roy was treated, or do you think both together ultimately?
There was a load of things. It wasn't just that and that. It was. I felt I needed a new challenge. I felt I wanted to do something different. The circumstances where in my life at the time, I wasn't married. My girlfriend was studying in Germany. She was studying law and German law. So she was going to come back to go to bar school in London. So that the timing worked in that respect. My mother was very ill at the time and subsequently passed away. I played my final game for Liverpool and she died the next day. That was on my mind a lot. Wow. The final year, the way I was with my father, because I was very, very close to him. That was on my mind a lot in the final year, apart from moving. And I just thought, now's the time. I need to go now, otherwise I'll never do it. And I just needed to have an opportunity for the change, really.
Just one additional question about your dad. So you then moved to Spain. Did he come with you? Did he visit you regularly? How old was he at that stage? He tried
to visit me regularly. Yeah. He wasn't a great flyer.
Okay.
He didn't want to come on his own. So him and his pals used to come over as much as possible and have, stay with me, and used to have the time of their lives going around Madrid, enjoying themselves, to be very honest. So yes, but it was hard because my father sort of lost his wife.
Sure.
Of 30, 40 years. And then he lost me not lost me, but I left. So where I'd see him daily probably, and he was at Anfield, every other week, we lost that little bit of connection as well. As much as I used to speak to him every single day, there was no FaceTimes or anything like that. So we spoke every day, but we lost, it was probably more difficult for him because I had this new exciting journey that I had to undertake. And, he'd lost his wife, and to a certain extent his son who played football. He had my sister and my brother there as well, but he loved his football so much that he lost that contact with me and going to football matches. Saying that, as soon as I left, he'd become an Evertonian against the race. So that was that. So I think he set foot on Anfield again then.
That is funny.
Obviously you leave in 1999, but back in 97 there was a lot of talk about you potentially going to Barcelona. How close did that come to fruition?
Well, it wasn't that close, to be honest, on my part. It was Liverpool had accepted the fee for me.
Was that 12 million?
Yes, I believe. And then they told me about 2 weeks later that they'd accepted the fee. And I could talk to Barcelona. But when I spoke to Barcelona almost on the telephone, it was a non-starter, really.
Right.
We were nowhere near doing anything. And I was surprised because then it was like a bit of a PR exercise that it was me against the club and I wanted to leave. And I said, and again, I was great with Evo at the time. It was probably the board, because they'd accepted a load of money for me without me knowing. And I was, of course, I was disappointed about that. When somebody says to you, we've had a bid, you can talk to them, they're almost saying you can go.
Yeah.
So it's, it just makes you a little bit more streetwise, a little bit more, what actually this business is about, really. Right, that's exactly what it was. But no, it was never going to materialise. And I think it happened over an international break, and I came back and I was fine with it, really. But of course, you'd almost besmirched, really, in the eyes of the mad, passionate Liverpool fans, because they think you're going to leave, and it had nothing to do with me.
Yeah,
it had something to do with the club.
Yeah,
and weirdly enough, somebody rang me. It was Dennis Roach. He was a football agent. He used to be involved with a number of agents. He certainly wasn't my agent.
He done my deal. He did my deal for Sociedad. He was the intermediate. It wasn't mine.
Yeah.
My nickname for him is Cockroach.
Yeah. But he got into the business by looking after Cruyff. I think he got into the business by looking after Johan Cruyff. He wasn't an agent, but he became one because Cruyff asked him.
He was in between for clubs.
So he rings me up and says to me,
still owes me 30 grand.
I bet he does. So he rings me up a couple of weeks before and says to me, Barcelona put a bid in for you. And I went, yeah. I didn't know him at the time. He said, Liverpool have accepted it. I said, get out. He said, they have. And I went, okay. He said, Juan Gaspar, the Barcelona president, will ring you. So I'm thinking, this is a wind up, you know what I mean? This is a wind up, this. Yeah. So, because Liverpool haven't said a word to me, not a word.
Exactly the same as
So I'm like, okay. So I'm just thinking it's nothing. I get a phone call off a Spanish person days later saying he's Juan Gaspar, saying Liverpool have accepted our bid and we want to bring you to Barcelona, etc. And I go, okay, yeah, all right, mate, no problem, yeah. And then again, nothing of it. And then Liverpool tell me like a week later, 10 days later, and that's when I thought, you fancy telling, like sort of the last day before you could do anything. Yeah. I just thought it's naughty that. Yeah, that's naughty. Yeah. I've been told weeks before that this has happened, and nobody told me until the last minute. But anyway, it was fine. I didn't fall out with anybody about it because I was quite cool about it. You just know how the football business is.
Yeah.
And well, it's always has been. Or you're not.
Seemingly. I mean, it's like people talk about it bad now. Maybe the numbers have got a few more zeros on. Yes. But it doesn't seem to have moved on much in terms of its etiquette.
The game's ruthless. If you're good enough, they'll keep you. If you're not good enough, they'll get rid of you. Yeah. I mean, I left at 27 on a free contract, and Bob Jones, a good mate of mine, left on a free contract with me. It's just that he was injured. So, you know, but he was out the door, no problem at all. Mm. But it's just that I went on to, so it's two ends of the scale and how you get treated how we'll offer you a new contract, or we're not offering you a new contract because you're injured. So you're out that way. So it's just, you just have to remember what it's like, really.
Yeah. And of course, also back then, the Bosman ruling was really new, wasn't it?
Yes, very
People
new,
were still kind of getting their heads
getting
around.
the terms around what it actually meant, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously you announced in the January you'll be leaving at the end of the season. Were those last 4 or 5 months tricky in terms of relationship with the fans and other things like that? How did you find that?
I found them all right. Yeah. As I said to you before, I lived in the city, and if Liverpool lost the game, it was because I was going to leave. Right. Effectively that's what it was. He's not trying because he's going to leave. I heard lots of stories like that. I heard lots of stories from ex-pros who play for Liverpool saying it. So that's hard to take because that's if you've played the game, it's absolute nonsense that. But in and around the city, I understand that people will be upset, and I understand that why people get upset. I've got no problem with that. But in and around the city, people were generally fine. I must admit, you're speaking to my friends of your fathers, and a lot of people were actually quite proud, weirdly enough, playing for this team who played in white with the Di Stefanos, etc. Yeah. A lot of people were thrilled to bits about it. Well done, and that's how I'd be. Yeah. But I understand why people would be upset the fact that you effectively are leaving, and you're effectively leaving for nothing, yeah. Yeah,
but you got a good send up on that final day. I think it was against Wimbledon, wasn't it? Your final game for the club. Yeah, it was. Was that an emotional day? The final farewell.
Yes, it was. It was very much so. I mean, I had a great relationship, or hopefully I had a great relationship with my teammates and the staff. And it was. But weirdly enough, we had a game a couple of days later then. We had to open the Stadium of Light, I think. Right. And that's when I got called back, because that would have been my last game. Right. I was up in Sunderland. I think it was 2 days later. To open this Stadium of Light, because I was sharing the room with Robbie Fowler, and my father called me and he said, I think your mum's going to die tonight. And I rang Gerard, was in the hotel, of course. So I said to Gerard, listen, I have to go back. And he said, yeah, fine. So I came home then. But so it was sort of, the send-off at Anfield was amazing, but I was still with the lads, if that makes sense, because we all travelled to Sunderland. But then I left them because I had to come home. So, but yeah, it was emotional. They bought me a nice picture, and people like Paul Ince and Phil Babb and all that lot. We had we were very, very close. So it was. But I knew then that lots of people were going to be leaving, and that's effectively what did happen. A year later, Gerard literally cleared shop, didn't he? 3 or 4 or 5 went. Yeah. But you knew that. You knew what Gerard wanted to do, and you knew that they were still going to be a few years away from achieving things. And that's why I was like, right, I think I knew it wasn't going to happen instantly. I knew it was going to be a rebuilding thing that I would have had to, if I would have joined and signed a new contract, it would have been another few years down the line.
Well, there's 66 goals in 364 games for Liverpool. That's pretty good, pal. And that's not even saying how many creative goals he made. So there's something to be proud of, pal. And that's the end of the second part of Aldo Meets. We'll be back shortly.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me tell you the story of a poor boy. He was sent far away from his home to fight for his king and his country, and also the old folks back home. So they put him in a Highland division. Sent him.
Welcome back to the third part of Aldo Meets, and here with Steve again. You're actually only the second English player to ever play for Real Madrid after Laurie Cunningham, who sadly died, didn't he?
Do you mean when I joined that was?
Yeah.
Not anymore.
No. Like I know it was because I was in Spain before you, but the settling when you go from there, and your background is very similar to mine in Liverpool. You know, in many ways, and then you move to you moved to the capital. I went to San Sebastian. It's odd, isn't it? The first time you get there, it's just so different.
Yeah,
and it's getting your head around and settling down, isn't it?
Yeah.
How did you find it?
You must have felt it as in, if you go to San Sebastian now, for instance, majority of people, certainly in shops, bars, restaurants, hotels, etc., will speak English. Yeah. But I bet you when you joined, because you joined before, mate, nobody spoke English.
No, you're right.
Nobody spoke English. So that was the hard part for me, because I go back to Madrid now to watch a game, and of course everybody speaks English. But when I was there, nobody spoke English. So that was the hardest part.
Did you learn straight? Because what I did, I was fixated because I hated school, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to go in the dressing room and you know, all these talking Spanish and Basque, and only
that's the thing, the Basque nationalists, and
there's only a couple of them who could converse in English, and it wasn't 100%, but they knew English, so I could talk to them, and they relayed it to the other lads. So straight away I said, well, I've got to learn this language straight away. So I was getting lessons 3 or 4 times a week just to try and, you know, connect with them. But in the meantime, maybe I've always been a bit of a joker anyway. I started making nicknames or swearing nicknames up to them. Yeah. You know, like Knobhead. I'd go like, I'd make a name up for Knobhead. And then they'll go, oh yeah. You know what I mean? And then I'd do all these swear words and all that. So yeah, I connected with lads. Lads, you know, to settle down. But because you're obviously you're going to dress you with real renowned, massive players as Real Madrid always have. You know, who's got egos and the massive big. That must have been even harder for you.
Yeah, it was hard because in '98 they'd won the Champions League, and then they'd won that Club World Trophy in Tokyo, whatever at the time. So they were officially sort of the best team in the world. And then at the end of that season, just the one before I joined, they didn't win anything. So there was a mass clear out. The manager was sacked again, and about 3 or 4 big players left with big characters. Davor Suker left. Okay. Peja Mijatovic left, who scored the goal in '98. Yeah. So there was a big clear out. They wanted to get rid of a lot and sort of start again, and rely on a lot of the Spanish players, the younger Spanish players. And so when it came, there was a touch of there was a few players came in at that time in Madrid. So there was a lot of, you know, people looking at players saying, is he going to be good enough? Are they going to be, you know, what are they going to be like? And at the time, the manager who came in was John Toshak.
That's right.
So of course I had an English voice.
Been there before,
he had, and he'd done really well. I had an English voice, and Tosh straight away. And a lot of the warm-up exercises were all Liverpool-based that he'd learned.
That's exactly real Sociedad, because he took it there. Was exactly the same.
So I'd done a lot of the exercises through Ronnie Moran and Roy Evans, so I knew what I was, and there was a couple of English-speaking players. Clarence Seedorf spoke English, Christian Karambou spoke English, but then they moved Clarence on, I think, right at the end of the transfer window. But I was a bit like you. I just thought, I need to learn the language. This is the major obstacle. This is the one thing you need to do. And we went on pre-season tour straight away. Within the first day, we trained in the morning, and the afternoon, we went on pre-season tour. It was like 2 weeks away in Switzerland or Austria, wherever it was. And I knew I roomed with a Spanish lad, and I'd taken some Spanish lessons, so I could converse a little bit, but not much. And I knew I had to be sociable. Yeah. So when the lads went out, I've said this a number of times, when they went out and had a drink, or after training, they'd sit together. I used to just sit with them, not converse with them because I couldn't understand because of the speed of their language and the slang that they spoke. But I sat and I had a beer with them. And they knew I was one of the lads because it was uncomfortable. I could have easily just went to my room and sat and read a book like we all could have. But you have to put yourself out there, and you have to laugh, and you have to be a bit of a joker. Yeah. And that was the one way to break barriers. So then in the end, after a couple of weeks away, the Spanish lads would think, oh, actually, he's all right, this lad. He's not a pain in the arse. He's okay. And then, the football side takes care of itself. If you're a good footballer, you get on with it.
You just remind me of something. I've got to tell this story. So I'm there. I've been there a month or whatever. It's a couple of months. And my wife's and the kids are in Liverpool and all that. And so we played the game at the weekend and we won, and said, although it's Bingo's birthday on Monday, after training, we're going to go and have food and drinks and all that. I thought, Mad Monday. Oh, it's a Mad Monday coming up. I said, they're not too dissimilar to me. So we trained and all that. And we just went down the back streets, like the back road of the main road. We went to this little Basque cafe, big cafe. I thought, there's all cidra there. You've got the cerveza there, red wine, white wine, Rioja wine, and all that, and all the tapas. Well, not pinchos, we call them pinchos. Yeah. The pinchos coming, thinking, this is what I've been waiting for. This brilliant, this, and it's like this 12:30 when we get in there. So 1 o'clock, it's flying, and 1:30, and then 1:45, one of the lads gets up. Adios, amigos. I go, what the fuck? Is he under pressure or something? I said to the lad. Next minute, another one goes, adios. Next minute, I'm sitting there on my own at 2 o'clock thinking, where do we go from here? I'm thinking, bollocks. I know there's an all-day session, a dog day. I remember it, because my miss wasn't there. I drove and parked my car in town, and I went round the bars in San Sebastian and went to bed early. I was absolutely good. So
when you were there, where did you... if you can remember, what did you do? Did you live in a hotel for a month, 2 months, 3 months? What did you do?
For a good few weeks.
Oh, you on your own?
Yeah, that's a start. And then we had to find, obviously, a villa, which they got us a lovely villa on it. It's a really beautiful old-fashioned villa. Then John come over with the kids, and then we settled
down, and
yeah, great people.
It was a dream end to that first season with the Champions League final.
Yeah.
The goal you scored against Valencia, what was that night like to be a part of?
It was, amazing, really. The night itself was very disappointing afterwards. We had like a banquet which was, I think, normal for a lot of the Spanish teams, where actually the dignitaries, the board members are more important than the team. Yeah. So I had about 19 friends and family out there who were going crazy in Paris, enjoying themselves. And I was in like some very awkward banquet, sitting at a table, very formal banquet, hardly getting a drink because there was about 1,000 people in there and there wasn't enough staff. So it was very, very underwhelming after the game.
And then, of course, 2 years later, you do it again in Glasgow. Yeah. I mean, no English player had ever won the European Cup with a foreign club. Okay. You did it twice in the space of 3 seasons. That must have been unbelievable to be a part of. Yeah,
we had a really decent team, actually, and the manager was very good, Vicente Del Bosque. He was very good, and we just seemed to click at times, to be very honest. The first season was difficult because John Toshak was sacked early on. He was arguing constantly with the presidents and the vice presidents. But then after that, we went to that silly tournament in Brazil that Manchester United went to and pulled out the FA Cup. Oh, okay. So we came back. We went to there as well, and we came back about 3 weeks later, and we had to then catch up in the league because we had about 5 games in hand. So it was a very weird season. But come the Champions League, we really clicked. Funny enough, we went to 3 at the back in the Champions League as well because of injury problems. And we then started to play really, really well. And then we beat all the good teams. We beat United, we beat Bayern, who were a very good side. And then we went on to, once we got to the final, even though Valencia were above us, I think, in the league because of our trips to Brazil, we knew we were much better than them.
What was Zidane like to play with?
Zizou was great, a lovely player.
Would he be the best player ever played?
Very elegant. Did hard things really, really easy. Made things look so comfortable, incredibly graceful on the ball. A really, really nice player. Really nice player. I mean, he struggled when he came into the side for about 6 or 7 months, but then found his groove after that, and he was a beautiful player. Beautiful, yeah.
After 4 seasons, 158 games for Real Madrid, that was that chapter came to an end. Were you ready to go, or did something trigger you to
Again,
go?
lots of triggers. The captain, Fernando Hierro, who was promised a new deal, got unceremoniously sacked, weirdly enough. Vicente Del Bosque was sacked after being promised that he was going to play. After he was going to stay, we won the league. And then we went out. It was that night where Robbie Fowler was with us, actually, and we went out on the team bus around the city. And then afterwards, there was a lot of conjecture whether when they win trophies, the following day they normally go to the town hall, the cathedral, offer the trophy to all the dignitaries, and something had happened between the team and the council. I think it was that they wouldn't allow the team to celebrate at the Belles, the fountain where they traditionally celebrate. Something happened, and there was a falling out between the team and the president of the club, Florentino Perez, and the board members. And we had a meeting in this restaurant, again after we won the league, all the team and all the wives and all the friends, and it went on to like 3 a.m. or something. Are we going to do this tour of the city or not? We're not doing this tour of the city. Forget them. We've fallen out with the council and we've fallen out with the president. And then we all went out afterwards and went to like clubs and et cetera, et cetera. And then about 7 o'clock in the morning, somebody came to me and said, we're now going around the city. Anyway, that materialized and all that was done. And then subsequently, a couple of days later, Florentino Perez sacked the manager because he felt he couldn't control the players and effectively sacked the captain. And then you knew something, you knew it was changing. So we brought in Carlos Queiroz at the time, if you remember. He was actually number 2 at Manchester United. That's right, yeah. And it was, as much as Carlos was a great man, a lovely fella, it was, the players were effectively very underwhelmed. And that was the start of the end of Madrid at that particular time. About 3 or 4 players left the following year. So it was a case of Bex had just joined, actually, and our pre-season tour, which normally consisted of 2 weeks in the Alps getting fit, we had pre-season in China in a place called Kunming, and every night we were just shaking hands with dignitaries and having meals, and then we went to Hong Kong, and then we went to Bangkok, and it was just slightly shambolic. And some of the players in the end were asking, "We need to train. We're not fit enough. We're not training because we're flying everywhere." And you just knew, I needed to get out because it was going south really, and it did. I think after that they must have had about 10 managers in about 4 years. It was just a shambles. And then in the end,
club for over the years,
and then in the end, Florentino stepped down.
And obviously somebody was waving from the blue end of Manchester, Kevin Keegan being the manager, and your pal Robbie playing for them. Was that like,
do you know what
just felt like the right sort of
Kevin Keegan would be, for me, looking at the way Steve played his football, Kevin Keegan would be the one manager that he'd want to play for. The way he wanted the football to be portrayed under his management. I don't know. You tell me.
No, we did. Yeah, that's how we wanted to play. We were just in the new stadium at the time. So I was thinking about coming back. I nearly went to Italy actually, and then
who's that to?
To Milan, and then I thought about coming home. Liverpool were not interested. Gerard wasn't interested in me. He said no. He didn't want me to come back. And then, speaking with Robbie and speaking with Kevin, I just thought, back into the northwest of England. I thought it'd be a really good, exciting move, actually, because they've been in the new stadium and they had big plans. So I came back then.
Importantly, did you go back drinking on County Road after your stint at Real Madrid?
No, I actually went to live. I was living in the city centre of Manchester, actually, at the time. I thought I need to ensconce myself right in. I don't want to travel, so I was living in the city centre of Manchester. So no, I wasn't drinking on County Road at all. If you're drinking on Deansgate in Manchester, it would have been not County Road.
A bit of a step down, obviously, from County Road.
Of course, yeah, County Road to Deansgate. Massive step down from the Netley to the living room.
I'd rather drink in County Road personally.
Yeah, exactly.
Me too.
So would I.
Okay. Quick few questions for you to end on before you have the quiz there. Did you ever think about management?
Yes, initially, and then I took my coaching badges, and then quickly fell out of love with the way managers were treated. Really, it's now you don't get any time, do you? And if you're an ex-player, I just think you're treated even worse. It's as if people in this country prefer you to fail than do well. And the average, I think, time in a job now is about a year. You wouldn't get a really decent job. So I did initially, funny enough, and then changed my mind afterwards.
Okay. What made you go around the route of the media work?
Well, funny enough, someone just asked me, and I just said okay. A channel a while ago, you'll know it more than us, when Setanta started. They started in England, and it was it was about 18 months. When I stopped playing at 33, which was quite early, really, because I felt as if I needed operations on my Achilles because I had problems with them. And I didn't want to carry on and get an operation because I would have been out for a year. So I just decided to walk away. And then I went travelling around the world for a bit with my wife. We didn't have children at the time. And then somebody who was running Setanta in England, because it's an Irish operation, isn't it? Yeah. They said they're starting a new channel, and would I come aboard with we've got Les Ferdinand and Tim Sherwood, who are new. And I said, well, why not? Let's see what it's like. And I really enjoyed it. And more importantly, really, the boss who we had, a lad called Andrew Hornet, who's still in the business now, he was a great boss to have. When we did games, like if we did Newcastle away on the Saturday, we'd go up on a Friday, we'd have a drink, we'd have a meal, all the lads, we'd have a right good laugh. So you're sort of getting that camaraderie back. Yeah. And
because that's what you miss a hell of a lot.
That's what you miss more than anything. And I was watching a football match, which was great. Liverpool was still incredibly popular because they are, with Manchester United, the most popular teams. So actually, we were doing a lot of Liverpool games. So it was like, well, this is brilliant. I can go and watch the game. I can have a drink with my mates. I can organise other things, and I've just stayed in it, ever since, really. Because as you know, football has become more and more popular every single year, and more and more channels take up the Premier League, and there's more dedicated football channels all over the world now, aren't they? So there's lots of opportunities to travel, to do games, to enjoy yourself, and also to spend a lot of time at home with the family. I started having children, and I wanted to be at home. As a footballer, as you know, also you're always away, aren't you?
Again, that comes more.
And I had children after I finished playing, so I wanted to spend a lot of time with the kids, which I've done.
All right, just a couple of tough ones to finish, mate. Out of everything you've achieved in your career, what means most to you?
Well, the FA Cup, my first FA Cup means most to me. To outsiders, it's the Champions League, because the Champions League now has superseded everything, hasn't it? Because of the scale of it and probably the finances that's involved. And you shouldn't really be talking about finances. But the first one meant a lot to me. I was only 20. As I said to you before,
the FA Cup was not what it is now. Like,
no, it was the trophy.
Massive,
you got to Wembley, as I said before. You were lucky you never get to Wembley, so to go and play. I'd only visited it as a fan, and the '86 Liverpool Everton game was off the scale, mad. One of people climbing in through the windows. All those old pictures. So I was there as a fan watching it, and to actually think, 4 years later, I'm going to play here. And of course, my mother and father were there, and my mother wasn't there when I went to Madrid. She'd passed, so she didn't see me lifting any Champions Leagues and stuff, all that, and leagues and things like that. So actually, the first one was the most important one. And even though I won the League Cup and scored, I'd still said the FA Cup was the more important one.
And this is probably the toughest one out of the lot, mate. You can pick yourself in this, but if you're picking a five-a-side team from everyone you played with, give us your five-a-side. All the best.
All of them. I'm stuck, aren't I?
I didn't make that.
Is it R9 or Fowler? Definitely Fowler.
You've got to put him in anyway. That's sort of that one.
Is it Figo or Barnsley? Well, it'd have to be Barnsley. Zidane would have to go in there. It was a good. I mean, we had a centre half. Fernando Hierro was a brilliant centre half. He was a brilliant centre half. So
nice fella as well.
Lovely fella. Yeah. So too many to choose from, really. But yeah, I'm fortunate to have even played with those type of players.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Right, Steve. Now the quiz. 6 questions. No pressure.
No pressure.
You know what? 6 questions, don't you?
What? Why? Oh, yeah.
6 times. If it was Madrid, we'd be here all night.
Could be 7 this year. You never know. Could be 7.
Right, number 1. Yourself and which other Steve are the only players in LFC history to have played for Liverpool under Kenny Dalglish, Souness, Evans and Houllier?
God bless us, Steve. Did you say English player?
Just
no.
There's 2 Steve.
Steve Stone.
Correct.
Stan, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Number 2, you scored both goals when Liverpool beat Bolton in the 95 League Cup final. The dad of which future Liverpool player lined up against you that day?
Danzy, was it? No. Lined up against the future Liverpool player. Yeah. Bolton. I don't even know that. Do I? Stupsy. I'm trying to think. He played for Bolton.
His dad played for Bolton.
His dad played for Bolton,
His dad played for Liverpool. Centre half.
Played for Liverpool later. Yeah. The son.
Yeah. Well, he's still on the books at Liverpool. And he's out
of course. I saw him recently. Weirdly enough, I saw him recently. Yeah, my lad played football in Bolton, and he was at the game watching Jimmy. Jimmy, we spoke about Nat actually. Jimmy Phillips.
Jimmy Phillips,
right.
correct.
Give me that one, mate.
Good.
Yeah.
Right, number 3.
Jimmy.
Which player had the iconic number 7 shirt at Liverpool prior to you inheriting it in 1996?
Cloughie.
Yeah.
Cloughie, correct. Number 4. The 2000 Champions League final that you scored in.
Yeah.
3 players played in that final who went on to play for Liverpool. Ooh. Can you name them?
Nicholas Anelka.
Correct.
Morrow.
Fernando
Morientes.
Yes.
And they played in the final, let me see. Let me go through the team. Did he play for Valencia? Did he play for Madrid?
Valencia, I think.
He played for Valencia.
Is that right? That's right. I know we're doing that.
I'm not sure, mate.
Centre, what's his name? Pellegrino.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Number 5. Who has got more assists for Liverpool, you or Trent Alexander-Arnold?
Ooh. Well, now we're all obsessed with stats. It'll be Trent, but it should have been me.
Correct. It's Trent by 1 according to the stats.
I doubt that. I've definitely got more than that.
We've done well actually. Once ago, is that 5?
When have goal involvements ever been a thing apart from this year? I mean, the amount of times Mo Salah's been in goal involvements has been 655 this year. I'm like, what?
Right, 6th and final one. Who scored more goals for Liverpool, you or Aldo?
God bless us. How long were you at Liverpool?
2 years, 10 months, 104 games I played.
4 games, so that's all games.
All
104 games, so I got 66, so you got 66, 104 than me then.
He got what, sorry? How many?
I'm saying he played 104 games and I got 66 goals, so it would have been one every, well, of course, if you do the maths, less than 2.
Aldo got 63.
Yeah. Oh, well done, mate. 63 and 104. That's good going, that, isn't it?
Well, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, every 1.5 games. That's amazing.
It's been a pleasure.
Nice to see you.
Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks, Steve.
Nice to
Brilliant.
meet you.
Pleasure, mate.
Thank you very much.
That's the end. Thanks to everyone, especially Steve, obviously for making the effort coming down. I really enjoyed it. Top podcast.
Superb.